IBSTOCK Brick manufacture and supply a variety of different bricks to suit a multitude of requirements. This video will guide you through the production process to help you understand how bricks are manufactured. Raw materials. The production process begins with the extraction of different types of clay, the primary raw material. All IBSTOCK factories have a nearby quarry which normally supplies the factory with all the clay it needs to manufacture its products. The clay is extracted from the quarry using heavy machinery and then stored. This is known as winning. From the quarry, the clay is transported to the clay prep area where the manufacturing cycle begins. Firstly, the clay is fed into a hopper where other additives may be added, depending on the product being manufactured. The following are some of the additives that may be used. Clay conditioner, to improve quality and reduce waste. Anti-scumming agent, to combat drier scumming and to a lesser extent, efflorescence. Colour pigment, to produce through body colour. Solid fuel, to create multicolour effect and possibly to assist firing. Lime or chalk, to modify body colour. Wherever possible, all additives are sourced from local sites or suppliers. The clay and additive mix is then fed along a conveyor into a pan, where two heavy wheels mix and grind the materials together. Water is added to the mix in order to temper it and increase its plasticity. Generally, recycled water is used for this process in order to conserve water usage and help maintain environmental standards. The mix is then forced through the holes in the bottom of the pan and onto another conveyor, where it then goes through a series of high-speed rollers. To ensure that the mix is of a smooth and workable consistency, it passes through a double-shafted mixer before being transported to the storage hopper, ready to be formed into bricks. Manufacturing process. Each of the different types of brick is produced by essentially two methods of manufacture. Extruded, also known as wire cut. This is where the clay body is mixed to a fairly stiff consistency. This is then loaded into an extruder, where a worm screw pushes it along a barrel, compresses it through a taper and extrudes it through a die, hence the name extruded. The die is machined to a precise size and shape. The clay emerges as a continuous brick-shaped column. Initially, the column has a smooth texture. This may be modified by using various rollers and machinery to produce a drag face or rustic texture. The column may also be sandblasted or simply left plain. It is then cut by a wire into single bricks which are then palletised and loaded for transport to the dryers. Extruded bricks are made at the following locations. Moulded, also known as stock or soft mud. This covers a number of processes where bricks are formed in mould boxes. There are several methods, but all have a common theme. Soft clay is placed into a mould box. A mould release medium prevents the clay from sticking to the mould. This can be sand or water. The excess clay is struck off from the top of the mould and the bricks are turned out. In its most simple form, this is done by hand. A hand maker forms bricks one at a time in wooden mould boxes. This method is skillful, although slow and labour intensive and consequently expensive. Handmade bricks are still made at Swanage, Ashdown and West Hoathly. Large automated machines are capable of simulating this process. Sets of mould boxes circulate round a machine where they are washed, sanded, filled with pre-sanded clots of clay, struck off level and then emptied. The empty mould then continues round the circuit again whilst the bricks are taken away for drying. This method produces bricks which closely resemble hand-thrown bricks. Soft mud pressing is achieved on a similar machine. The main difference is the mould filling, where soft clay is squeezed directly into the sanded mould boxes. This produces bricks with a smooth, sandy texture. On combination machines, it is possible to make both soft mud pressed and simulated handmade bricks, but not at the same time. Moulded or stock bricks are made at the following locations. A variation of this process is water-struck, where water is used as the mould release medium. This produces bricks with a relatively smooth texture. Water-struck bricks are produced at Birtley and Park House. An automated plant will produce bricks at a rate of typically 20,000 per hour. It is important at the making stage to allow for shrinkage. Clays shrink in the drying process and normally in the firing process. Therefore, bricks are oversized at the making stage. Different clays shrink at different rates, and consideration of this has to be taken in the mix. Drying and setting. Drying must not be confused with firing. Drying only involves the removal of water from the wet bricks. The temperature in the dryers is typically 80 to 120 degrees centigrade. Water within the brick migrates to the surface, where it evaporates into the drier atmosphere, and the dry bricks proceed to further processing. The heat source for the dryers is often heat recovered from the firing process, although independent burners may be used. The system needs to be carefully controlled, and this is either done manually or by computer. During drying, the brick will shrink as the clay particles come together. Dry bricks are hard and strong enough to be stacked, but have no weather-resistant qualities. Drying schedules vary, but 18 to 24 hours is typical for an automated plant. Where special shapes or large pieces of clay are concerned, the schedule may be up to a week or more. Dry bricks are stacked either manually or by machine into packs to be fired. This process is called setting. Firing. During firing, the bricks undergo a physical change. The clay particles and impurities are fused together to produce a hard, durable and weather-resistant product. This is called vitrification. This is usually accompanied by shrinkage and colour change. Temperatures in firing vary greatly depending on clay type, but are generally in the range of 900 to 1200 degrees centigrade. Bricks cannot suddenly be subjected to these temperatures, so firing is done in 3 stages. The first stage is preheating. This ensures total dryness of the bricks. The second stage is firing. A fuel, usually natural gas, LPG, oil or coal, is used to raise the temperature to the required level. The final stage of firing is cooling. Cold air is drawn into the kiln to cool the bricks ready for sorting and packing. The cold air becomes hot and can be drawn off for brick drying. There are several types of firing methods used throughout IBSTOCK's many manufacturing sites. Chailey and West Hoathly use the traditional method of clamp-fired bricks. The bricks are stacked to form a clamp, which is then covered with insulation bricks and casing bricks. The clamp bricks are then preheated in order to slowly raise the temperature to ensure total dryness before firing. The bricks are then fired using a series of heat sources which pass along the bottom of the clamp. The bricks fire at over 1000 degrees centigrade and are then allowed to cool down, which takes between 7 and 10 days. Once fired, the bricks are then removed from the clamp. During this process, the bricks are then sorted, as the heat from the clamp often produces a range of colours from light to dark. Where this mixture of colours is achieved, it is often referred to as ATR, meaning as they rise, or all through the range. In addition to the clamp, the most widely used method of firing is using kilns. Intermittent kilns. These are usually small and used for firing small batches of products, for example, special shapes. Continuous kilns. For large-scale production, continuous kilns are more economical and are capable of turning out large quantities of bricks at a steady, constant rate. Continuous kilns come in two main types: chamber kiln and tunnel kiln. Continuous chamber kiln. In its simplest form, a chamber kiln is an annular tunnel divided off into chambers. A section of the kiln is being fired at any one time. The fire is drawn round the kiln, with chambers being lit in front of the fire and chambers allowed to go out behind the fire. Bricks are loaded into the kiln in front of the fire and preheated for 1 to 2 days before the fire reaches them. The bricks then fire for 2 to 3 days. Once the fire has passed, the bricks cool before being removed from the kiln. Continuous tunnel kiln. In a tunnel kiln, dry bricks are loaded onto a fireproof trolley or kiln car. This then travels very slowly through the kiln. A typical schedule through the kiln from end to end is 3 to 4 days, but variations will occur depending on clay type and production schedules. Although tunnel kilns are generally more expensive to build than chamber kilns, they are more economical to run and lend themselves to high degrees of automatic control. It is essential that tunnel kilns are run on a continuous basis, ideally for several years at a time between shutdowns. Different firing schedules are necessary for different clay types. Where different clay types have to be fired in the same kiln, it is clearly necessary to arrange for long batches and as few changes as possible in order to achieve the best results. Selection and packing. Following firing, bricks are selected and packed. This may be by a manual method or by machine. Mechanised packing is limited to regular production types where all bricks are of the same size and shape. Special shapes have to be packed manually. Packing machines will present bricks to a team of inspectors who will remove any substandard product. These will then be discarded as waste or packed separately as inferior grade. On semi-automated plants, the packs may be built manually, then strapped together by machine. Purely manual packing methods are now largely restricted to special shapes where a high degree of selection is required and the irregularity of the product excludes any viable form of automation. Packs are stocked in safe, stable and orderly stockpiles ready for dispatch. IBSTOCK's bricks, on average, travel only 62 radial miles from where they are manufactured to where they are used. These can be transported via a variety of vehicles, from full loads on articulated lorries to single packs using IBSTOCK's pallet carrier service. Summary. From the initial extraction of the raw material to the finished product leaving the factory, IBSTOCK's products are manufactured to give you the highest quality possible. With many different factories across the country offering different manufacturing processes, IBSTOCK Brick can supply a range of bricks to meet the requirements of all its customers.